Arjuna sits on his chariot and he takes his bow. Now Arjuna has a special bow. It's called Gandhiva. And it's an unbreakable bow. It has and he has a quiver. Quiver is where you put arrows into. And the quiver is inexhaustible. Meaning you put arrows, you just keep pulling it, it just keeps coming. It's a nifty little thing. And it was given to him by the god Agni. It's a beautiful story. I really don't have time to say it, but I have to tell you a little bit because it's so curious. God Agni is a sacrificial fire, and what do people put into the sacrificial fire? They keep putting ghee, right? Now put yourself in Agni's place. If your entire diet was composed of ghee all the time, wouldn't you have digestive issues? He did. So Agni comes to Arjuna and he says, I need to eat some salad. I'm not making any of this up. He says, I need to eat some salad. This ghee is way too much for me. What is salad for the god of fire? Consuming an entire forest. That's his salad, isn't it? So he says, there is this big forest. I need to go eat my salad. But Indra, the king of gods, has a few friends in the forest. He's afraid. He wants to protect them. So he'll send rain and he'll extinguish me. So please, Arjuna and Krishna, protect me. So they go, they protect. Lots of magical things happen, but Agni resets his digestion by eating a ton of salad. Let me just leave it at that. And then he gives Arjuna the gift of Gandhiva, the bow which is unbreakable, and the inexhaustible quiver of arrows. So taking this bow, taking these arrows, Arjuna sits on his chariot, and with one day of hard charioteering, he goes up north and comes into the Himalayas. It's a beautiful forest grove. It has many fragrant trees of mangoes and jasmine and neem and so many other trees, and it has swift flowing streams with pure glacial water right from the Himalayas, and here and there are lakes and ponds that are holy and serene and peaceful. And in this beautiful forest, such is the holiness of this, that there are no predators, there are no lions, tigers, there aren't the disgusting scavengers such as jackals and vultures. There are only sattvic animals such as deer and songbirds and so on. So he comes into this beautiful serene forest. It's evening, it's very peaceful. He gathers some fruits and he eats them and he drinks some water from a glacial stream. He peacefully sleeps. The next day it's time to begin to worship Shiva. Now he wants something from Shiva. Now if you wanted something from me, what would you do? I don't know what you would do, but generally what people would do is they'd come, wait for a time that I'm in a good mood and say some nice things, nice hair, whatever they say. And then, and then they ask me, and probably if I'm in a good mood, they said the right things, I might give it to them. Right? This is a transaction, yagya. It's the same concept at a much lower octave. But how would you please Shiva? Now, he's the creator of the universe. He's always in a good mood. I'd be sad if Shiva wasn't in a good mood. He's always in a good mood. It is through his power that creation and sustenance and everything proceeds. So, what would he desire? Well, Shiva only desires the pure offering of our heart. That is the one thing that we have, the free will to give the gods, to give Shiva. So, this act of purifying the heart is called as tapasya, austerities. The body needs to be purified of toxins. The mind needs to be purified of restless thoughts. The intellect needs to be purified of bad intention. And the heart needs to be purified of all desire. And then Shiva automatically comes. And no matter what you ask, he will give it to you. This is the overall concept in the higher ages, which we are in again. So you might want to experiment with this. But this is kind of how you get what you want without having the karmic bounce back from it. So Arjuna begins his austerities. For the first year, for the first month, he eats maybe once every 3 days. And then all the other time he's just chanting Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then in the second month, he takes it up a notch. He stops eating altogether. and then night and day saying Om Namah Shivaya, except when he sleeps, Om Namah Shivaya. And it stops being words for him. He begins to feel their power. The power of the 5-syllable mantra comes through his body and mind. And in the 3rd month, he gives up sleep. And he just sits there. Think about that for a moment. Perhaps all of us have fasted, even for several days on end. Have you tried not sleeping? Arjuna gives up sleep. He just sits in the full lotus posture, day and night, day after day. Om Namah Shivaya. He keeps chanting. And the toxins from his body and mind and the power of intent begin to manifest as a sort of heat from his body. It's hard to approach him now. But yet, he's so much in harmony. His body, mind, and the elements are so much in harmony that his health, his vitality improves beyond all bounds. 4th month, he doesn't even sit. He just stands with his arms lifted up. Om Namah Shivaya, it continues. And in the 5th month, even that is not enough. He just stands on one leg all the time. Om Namah Shivaya continues. By now, a great column of fire is rising from the top of his head, representing both his purification and his intensity of devotion. The 6th month, he even stops moving his eyes. It's so motionless. He just follows the path of the sun across the ecliptic from dawn to dusk. His eyes just follow that. He's standing on one leg, arms uplifted, and chanting Om Namah Shivaya, nothing else. And a few days into the 6th month, the sun seems to be shining a little more brightly today. And there is more sharpness. And it is the day of Shivaratri, the holy day of Shiva. And everything around him is unusually still. Even the birds are not chirping. All the jungle sounds, they are completely absent. And suddenly, there's a frightful sound that comes out of nowhere, and then it's followed by rumbling footsteps, and there appears a great big wild boar. It's black and hairy, and its thundering hoofs come towards Arjuna. It has these canines here, and then it's obvious that it wants to trample and kill Arjuna. Arjuna's austerities after 6 months for the first time is disturbed. He's shaken for a moment, but then he gathers himself, takes his bow, Gandhiva, and takes an arrow, shoots a lethal arrow at the boar. And even as his arrow hits the boar, from somewhere else comes another arrow. And both arrows find their mark, and the boar falls like a great falling mountain and dies instantly. Then Arjuna looks around in anger and confusion as to where the other arrow came from. And then he sees approaching him from a far distance a very tall, well-built man. He's a hunter. These deep forests have these tribes of hunters, and this hunter he's clad in tiger skin, and he's holding he's holding a bow that's taller than him, and the bow doesn't feel like it's made of metal. It seems to be actually a great hissing serpent that is writhing and made itself into the form of a bow. And on this metal or serpent or whatever's making the bow, there are ominous, intricate patterns. And he's holding this, and he has a long chiseled nose, a broad forehead, and on his broad back is tied a quiver of leather, and he has on his waist, instead of a belt, it seems like he's tied another snake. Arjuna isn't sure because the guy has been meditating deep inward for 6 months, but suddenly he sees this, and then there is a sword at his waist, whose the top of the sword is like the head of a scary roaring lion. And this hunter, he takes this bow and he's lazily twirling it above his head, and it's causing a whooshing sound. So imagine that, if you will, that there is a giant big dead boar here, Arjuna just coming out of his deep 6 months of austerities, and in walks this formidable, almost apparition, but distinctly not an apparition, with the swishing sound of his bow. And this hunter calls out, "Oh Prince, I told you beforehand that this boar belongs to me before I shot the arrow, yet you paid no heed to what I said and you shot your arrow. This is not dharma, but not to worry. I have forgiven you. Turn back and be on your way." And Arjuna looks, what is this? Who dare speak to me like that? And then he said, "O king of hunters," he's still patient. He says, "O king of hunters, the boar was obviously coming towards me with the intent to kill. It posed no danger to you, but I was obligated to kill it. That is my duty. That's my dharma. And I killed it. So it belongs to me. Turn around and leave. Don't make me angry." And the hunter looks at him, says, "You look like a yogi. Why do you need this pig? For me, this is food. This is what I'm going to eat." And then Arjuna looks at him. Now he's getting angry. He says, "Utility is not the issue. Dharma is the issue. I had the right to kill this, and I have killed it. Turn around and go away right now, or be prepared to face my wrath," he says. The hunter folds his arms, looks at him mockingly, and it says, "Only cowards hide behind arguments and words. If you were a true warrior, as you claim, by now you would have already loosened your wrath on me and you would have wounded me. This Arjuna cannot tolerate." The greatest of all warriors, he picks up his Gandiva bow. All the while the hunter is just standing there mocking him. He picks up his bow and lets loose a lethal arrow which flies so fast. Imagine all the skill of Arjuna harmonized by his months of austerities. What a power the arrow has. The hunter is just standing there. And then as the arrow comes at lightning speed, in the last moment, he just takes his left hand, grabs the arrow and throws it. From midair, Arjuna's arrow. From midair. This has never happened to Arjuna. Now Arjuna goes into full warrior mode. And then he shoots 5, 10, 100, 500 arrows at this hunter. And the hunter's just standing there. And then as they come to him, he grabs them and they seem to atomize. They seem to vaporize in his hands. But Arjuna is stunned. And then he finds his quiver, the inexhaustible quiver, when he gave Agni, the god of fire, a meal of salad that he was desiring. This inexhaustible quiver is now empty. So not knowing what to do, Arjuna rushes at this hunter with his indomitable Gandiva bow, and as he lifts to hit him with the bow, this hunter just takes the bow and absorbs it within himself. It just disappears. It's absorbed. And then Arjuna has only the sword left. So he picks up the sword and hits him on the head with the sword, and the sword shatters in 1,000 pieces. Now Arjuna's body is now toned with all these austerities. Remember I told you he had never been more vital. So he begins to hit this hunter with his bare hands, and the sounds of his slaps and fists reverberate through the forest. And the hunter he's just casually standing there, completely undisturbed. And at some point, as if making up his mind, he lifts his left hand and swats Arjuna. So powerful was the blow that Arjuna flies several feet high into the air, falls down with the bloodied, bruised body, perhaps many broken bones and teeth. And then he looks up at the hunter and he says, "You shameless brigand, thief," he says, "give me some time. I'm going to worship the great god Shiva, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to destroy you." So he goes a little bit farther, makes a lingam. It's the symbol of Shiva. It represents the spine. And he doesn't have anything to offer to the lingam. But God doesn't desire anything. Even a leaf, even a flower offered with pure heart and great devotion is enough. So Arjuna gathers some leaves and flowers, and then he offers it and he chants all the mantras sacred to Shiva. And then he still curiously, he doesn't regain his strength, but some of his determination is back. And then he turns back and hobbles towards this hunter, and then he's stunned, motionless. His mind is stupefied because he sees the flowers and the leaves that he had offered on top of the lingam is now on this hunter's head. Very soon, realization breaks into his stupefaction, and then Arjuna realizes in a moment of complete wisdom that this is Shiva himself. He doesn't know what to do. He runs to the hunter, who is Shiva, falls at his feet and says, Lord, please forgive me. You are the one I have been seeking all along. You were there in front of me. So great is my ignorance that even though you were here, I failed to recognize who you are. I am a mere mortal, Lord. Please forgive me for what I did. I dared to hit you. I actually fought you. He's mortified. He doesn't know what to say. And he just begins to chant Om Namah Shivaya. He says Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. The forest picks up the chant. The birds and the animals and the trees begin to chant Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
Now Shiva shows Maheshwara, the great god Shiva, he shows his true form. He's standing as tall as the mountains. He's clad in tiger skin, and there is a snake that's wrapped itself 3½ times around his neck. That is, instead of a necklace, this is what the renunciant Shiva wears. This is his ornament. He has his blue skin smeared with ash, his matted locks tied up into a top knot, and his head is so far high up that it feels like it's higher than the clouds. Arjuna looks at it, and way up there from the top knot of Shiva, there is the moon, as if the moon is his ornament. It is shining behind Shiva's top knot, and right from the very top of that is coming the cascade of the heavenly river Ganga. She cascades down in a cooling spray, washes Shiva's feet, and goes on to sanctify the mankind later on in the plains of this great land. Shiva picks up Arjuna and hugs him, being hugged by God. Imagine that for a moment. Just the touch of God relieves all the bruises, all the broken bones. Arjuna is back again, whole and filled with even more power. And standing next to Shiva is Divine Mother Parvati. And she stands there and she hugs her son, her devotee. And in that touch of Divine Mother, Arjuna feels the love of all of his mothers through all his incarnations. So great is this cascade of love coming to him that he knows that every love that was ever given to him or he ever gave was simply the pale aspiration of the love that he's feeling right this moment from Divine Mother Parvati. And then Shiva gives him the great Pashupata weapon, and Parvati gives him the mysterious Anjalika weapon. Both of these will become useful later. And from the north descends Kubera in a heavenly chariot, gives him his powers of material, spiritual prosperity. And from the west comes Yama, gives him his powers of morality and judgment. And from the south comes Varuna, strengthening Arjuna's already great knowledge of the esoteric arts. And finally, from the east comes Indra, the king of gods, granting him for the first time ever the powerful Vajra weapon. Nobody else but Indra had possessed this. And so it was that Arjuna stands among Shiva and the protectors, the guardians of all the directions, indomitable, indefatigable, inconceivably powerful. The exile of the Pandavas continue. Now through this there are many, they each go through tests just like Arjuna did, and Yudhishthira becomes even more calmer. It is only in the divine calmness that we know what is right and what is wrong. Isn't it restlessness that robs us of our discrimination? Yudhishthira becomes even more calm. Bhima becomes even more powerful, not because somebody gave him a boon, but he knows now to lift his heart in devotion. And Nakula and Sahadeva too enhance their powers. And all the while Draupadi, the son of fire, is focusing her anger towards people that are evil. And in this way, the rock of the ages is about to be moved.